Hello and welcome to Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Kojo. This is the home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. In our headlines this hour, former Attorney General Ejura to chickens out of the NPP's chairmanship race just a few days to the delegates conference.
Honorable Ejura Otu, who was vying for the position of national chairman of the party, has however since withdrawn from the race.
Meanwhile, the NPP says it will crack the whip on persons who are buying votes in this contest.
Aspirants and all their agents are therefore warned not to engage in any untoward behavior that can be interpreted as bribery. There's a law in this country that covers cheating and bribery, and we are going to enforce it.
Also in this package, the Domikwabena MP stalls the work of the Privileges Committee after failing to show up at the committee despite efforts being made to reach her. This will be about the third time the MP has failed to show up. We'll bring you details of what transpired at the Privileges Committee today. And also in this package, we're learning that 1 out of every 5 children has a challenge with learning disabilities.
Generally, we realize that there seem to be many more children with disabilities, otherwise referred to as differently able students or learners, than we thought.
Hello again, thanks for choosing us. My name is Ernest Kojo Manu. Now, the former Attorney General, Ejura Otu, has chickened out of the NPP's chairmanship race barely a week to the party's National Delegates Conference. This despite being cleared by the vetting committee to run in the election. The former High Commissioner to Canada had put himself up to be elected to lead the party into the 2024 elections as its chairman. He had insisted that he was the right man to help break the party's 8 come 2024.
It should not be about me.
But you're going to be the chairman.
Sure.
You must convince the electorate.
How many votes do you think I have?
No, you have 1.
Yes.
But I'm talking about when you go before the party's delegates.
So it is a collective thing. We work together.
No doubt. But you are the leader. You'll be the leader.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah. But I'm saying that you can only work together with others.
I have no doubt about that.
It should be a teamwork.
No problem. But what do you as an individual leader, chairman, if you win, bring to that table to break the 8?
You have an election committee. You have a campaign office. You have people who will come together to work on it.
Is that suggests that you don't
really?
It's you don't have a big idea of your own.
I'm not saying so.
I want to know that big idea to break the 8.
There are so many. I said first of all that you need to work on apathy. I'll tell you where I stand on that. Apathy, to me, is the greatest enemy of a party. We've done so well in 2017, then in 2020, we end up in a tie, 137. And then you needed somebody to break that tie. That person happens to be our former member. What happened to him? Because of the way he was treated, in trying to secure somebody's maybe position and letting him get out of the place and the rest, So if the party, you remember I issued a statement that where the rules for internal elections are not properly managed or applied, it leads to apathy, and it's very serious.
But with barely a week for the polls, Mr. Ejura Otu has chickened out of the race. Now, here's the chairman of the party's election committee, Peter McMinu, announcing his resignation.
3 prospective aspirants for the positions of National Organizer, National Women's Organizer, and National Youth Organizer, that is Dr. Kwame Afriyie, Posia Sewa Bonsu, and Tumfo Klinsman Kakari Mensah, respectively resigned their decision to contest. In effect, they withdrew from the contest. As a result of the diligence of the National Election Committee and the preparedness of the prospective aspirants, no appeals against the nomination of any prospective aspirant were recorded by the National Appeals Committee headed by Honorable Dan Boche, which had scheduled Friday 24th to Saturday 25th of June 2022 for the hearing of appeals. In effect, there were no appeals. So the process went smooth sailing. Honorable Ayikwe Otu, who was vying for the position of national chairman of the party, has however since withdrawn from the race.
And still with the governing New Patriotic Party, it has warned that persons caught in act of vote buying during the delegates' conference will be arrested and prosecuted. This is part of efforts to crack down on the rising issues of bribery, which has characterized the party's reorganization process so far. There were widespread allegations of vote buying during the party's recently held constituency elections, but addressing a press conference, the chairman of the Elections Committee, Peter McMinu, said there will be zero tolerance for bribery in the internal delegates conference.
For the avoidance of doubt, the National Party will be responsible for transportation, accommodation, and feeding of all delegates throughout the conference. All aspirants and or their agents are therefore warned not to engage in any untoward behavior that can be interpreted as bribery or treating within the meaning of the Representative of People's Law 1992 PNDC Law 284, which are serious criminal offenses. The National Election Committee has therefore engaged the Ghana Police Service, who will be on the election grounds to strictly enforce the laws and arrest anyone found to be in the breach of PNDC Law 284. There's a law in this country that covers treating and bribery, and we are going to enforce it. So we are using your medium to tell Ghana and the world that we are not going to entertain any acts of treating and bribery in our internal elections.
Let's head to Parliament. Now, John News understands that MP for Dome-Kwabena Sarah Adwoa has failed to appear before the Privileges Committee to answer questions on why she has been absenting herself from Parliament. Her conduct and that of two other NPP MPs, Kennedy Japon and Henry Quartey, were referred to the committee by the Speaker, Alban Badmin. Now, the committee published her invitation in the national dailies, also gave her the opportunity to appear via video conferencing, but the MP has still not shown up. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante joins us via Zoom with some more details. Kweku, we know that she was expected a month ago. Tell us the story of how this has moved to today.
So, Ernest, last month, the Honorable MP was expected to appear before the Privileges Committee together with two other majority MPs who have all been summoned because they have absented themselves for more than 15 days. In the case of Sarah Adwoa, she did not turn up at the committee meeting a month ago, although the other two MPs, Honorable Henry Quartey and Honorable Kennedy Japon, did so and tried to explain why they were absent for the period of days. But what happened with Sarah Adwoa was that because she's outside the country, the committee explained that they had been doing all they could to reach her in Ghana and summon her. She did not avail herself to be summoned. So Parliament decided that they will substitute the summon service by publishing her invitation in the national dailies and giving her up to 1 month period to show up to be, as it were, interviewed for explanation in terms of why she's been absenting herself from Parliament. But we know that Honorable Sarah Adwoa is also not in the country. So the committee said if she can't face the committee in person, then they will give her some Zoom details for video conferencing. So 1 month down the line, they were expecting that she will appear before the committee today, and as she didn't. The committee sat about 12 o'clock in the afternoon today, waiting for her to appear. As about 3:30 to 4, when the committee finally decided that they had waited for far too long, the MP has still not shown up. So they waited for like 3 to 4 hours, and she had not shown up, and then they decided that they were going to move on.
And Kweku, we know that Parliament says it's made efforts to reach the MP? We know about publishing her invitation in the dailies, for instance, and affording her the opportunity to appear via video conferencing. Give us a breakdown, details of the steps taken by Parliament deliberately to reach the Dome Kwabena MP.
So they first started by serving the summons and invitations to her house here in Accra. They said they met security personnel that were protecting the house. They tried to give those summons to be passed on to their boss, Honorable Sarah Joasafo. They also decided to do the service of the summons through her office as Minister of State in charge of Gender, Children Affairs. They also did that. They also put those invitations in her pigeonhole in Parliament. In Parliament, all MPs have pigeonholes that they put information relating to them in there. What they also decided to do was to try and reach her on all the emails and phone numbers that they have of her. Indeed, some of her colleagues and MPs who have her personal phone numbers have also tried to send an invitation to her, but they've had no response. And so the committee is currently at its wit's end in terms of how they will be able to reach her to finally appear before the committee. And then finally, what the committee decided to do is that in the next 1 week, they are going to start preparing the evidence in terms of Honorable Henry Kojo and Honorable Kennedy Japan and present it to the House.
Okay.
If within this 1 week she does not avail herself, then they will inform Parliament that they have done all they could not reach her, so they are presenting a report to cover the first 2 MPs, and then Parliament would have to take a new decision in terms of how to deal with the Dome Kwabena MP, Sarah Joasafo.
Well, we'll see how that pans out. Kweku, thank you very much for bringing us those details. And still in Parliament, the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, is fighting back accusations that his side should accept blame for Ghana's latest return to the IMF. Top government and NPP functionaries have said the NDC's opposition to the e-levy and the consequent failure of the tax handle to realize the projected amounts forced the government to seek a bailout from the IMF. But speaking to journalists in Parliament, Haruna Idrisu says his side will not accept any responsibility as regards the current economic status.
They should stop any attempt to shift blame. E-levy remains an unpopular tax instrument, and therefore the fact that it passed does not mean it had the support or has the support of the minority. We rejected it because it was unpopular. We shared it with you. We rejected it because it's marks of double taxation. Indeed, in many jurisdictions, it will not stand constitutional acceptability. I cannot see why I take my income tax, pay an income on my tax, and in sending 2,000 of it to my mother on an electronic platform, I still have to pay tax on it. So our position on it have not changed. Therefore, the essence of this press briefing, they must take full responsibility and focus on expenditure reduction, particularly focusing on social intervention whilst they reduce their opulent expenditure. What is of greater concern to the NDC minority is that they arrogantly rejected every reasonable and constructive suggestion from us and from other respected economists and Ghanaians on working together to improve the economy. What they must learn to live with is that once the Ghanaian people voted for a hung parliament, it meant that the days of impositions are over.
The Tamale South legislator says the blame for Ghana's economic condition should be laid squarely at the doorstep of President Akufo-Addo, whom he accuses of profligacy. Now, meanwhile, he is urging the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, and the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, to resign to save their credibility.
That President Nana Addo Dankwa and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia should take full responsibility for incompetently managing the economy to suffocating debt level, which has necessitated the retreat, for us to request an agreement with the International Monetary Fund for the restructuring of our debts. As they take full responsibility, they should. they should also take responsibility for their reckless and irresponsible borrowing and unjustified profligate expenditure, which has led us to the journey of retreat. And you know, many of them are behaving like a class 6 people who tells their mother and father that last year I got F and I marked the NDC and probably John Dramani Mahama F. Then after 3-5 years, they get an F and they say that my F is better than your F. That's a childish behavior they are into, as if they are right. I mean, in any civilized democracy where people take responsibility and have a premium and value on credibility, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, I don't know whether he has any respect for the word credibility and its value and what you do with, including the Honorable Minister of Finance. They would have done what is needful. I doubt if they can correct their mess. So they better start packing to get out of office.
On his part, the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Kezela Tuforsen, says Ghanaians must embrace tough times under the new IMF deal. According to him, the country's debt position and other variables make it clear that Ghana will get a very tough deal.
Reiterate that the people of Ghana should expect a very strong IMF program. Unfortunately, the government is not articulating that fact. They are trying to hide from what is happening by trying to blame Ukraine-Russia war. I do not accept it, and we cannot accept that as the reason why Ghana is in this mess. We are in this mess because it is government's deliberate policy. The government has messed us up big time, and they should take responsibility for it. This is indeed self-inflicted, and the people that took us through this mess must immediately take responsibility, as the leader said. I also want to say that we in the minority will never and can never accept a blame that suggests that we deliberately rejected government policy. This IMF program will differ from all the IMF programs that we've seen in the past. In fact, this will be the first time that we will do an IMF program with debt restructuring. That means a lot. That will mean that Ghana is going to go through another phase of HIPIC, to the extent that we are going to look at our debt and restructure it. The government should come clean and tell us what exactly the people of Ghana should expect it, instead of blaming Ukraine and Russia. Sadly, they are telling us that the Ukraine war has affected Ghana more than Ukraine. Unfortunately, today as we speak, all our economic indices, as compared to Ukraine is better than us, even though they are at war. Yet we, sitting here, huge kilometers away from Ukraine, is trying to blame Ukraine and Russia. No wonder the Russian embassy has been consistent in telling the government to stop what they are doing.
Let's stay in Parliament a while longer because minority MPs are taking on the Minister for Interior, Ambrose Derry, for failing to pay compensation to victims of the Ejura shooting 1 year after the incidents. The minister says his ministry is working tirelessly to secure compensation for victims of the incident. Responding to questions in Parliament, Mr. Derry blamed the delay in the payment of compensation packages on administrative processes. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has the rest of the story.
MP for Ejura Dumase, in whose name the question stood in Parliament, lamented the non-payment of the compensation to victims. He also criticized government for stopping the commemoration of the disturbances. But on the score of the compensation, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry has been explaining to MPs that the delays in payment is being worked on.
I'm informed that the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice has received medical report from Konfanoche Teaching Hospital on the injured persons to determine the parameters due the victims. Notwithstanding, the Office of the Attorney General has requested victims to provide them with all medical receipts on which they are awaiting response. Mr. Speaker, the 3 victims will be compensated when all administrative processes are completed. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, permit me to inform the House that families of the 2 deceased persons have been compensated.
The minority in Parliament were not happy with the responses of the minister. They say the delay is unwarranted and have been pressing for immediate action.
It's been well over 1 year since this incident happened. And if it's still taking both the ministry and the Attorney General's Department and Ministry of Health more than a year to gather the relevant documents.
This unfortunate incident happened on 29 June 2021. We are now in July, which means 1 year, July 2022. We are now talking about medical reports. We are now talking about the fact that the 3 victims will be compensated when all administrative processes are completed.
Victims had to take care of themselves. Victims had to take care of themselves because, in your words, you are awaiting medical reports to the Attorney General. Will you consider reviewing the state medical emergency policy for such victims? Because, Mr. Speaker, permit me, you have shot me innocently. I'm struggling for my life and health. I'm being told that take care of yourself, then later the state will take care of you.
The minister has meanwhile been assuring the House that urgent steps will be taken to ensure victims get their due compensation. Following those exchanges on the floor, the MP for Ejura Alhaji Bawa Brahima says he will continue to push for his constituents who are affected by that disturbance to get their due in terms of compensation. But the Interior Minister also addressed issues of concerns to MPs. The MPs now have police bodyguards, but according to the minister, up to 62 of these bodyguards do not have pistols that they will use to protect these MPs in case they really have to use them. The minister has been assuring the House that his ministry is working with other state agencies to ensure that the necessary procurements are done in the coming weeks so that those security guards who do not have pistols will get them.
Available police records indicate that 62 police guards assigned to MPs are yet to be issued with pistols. This is attributed to the fact that there have been exponential demand for the supply of arms from the armor of the police to the police personnel assigned to be bodyguards for MPs, judges of the Supreme Court, ministers of state, and senior police officers. Efforts are, however, underway to procure additional arms and ammunition for the Ghana Police Service to enable and cater for the remaining 62 bodyguards and others assigned to the judges of the Supreme Court, ministers of state, and senior police officers.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Kojo. Still to come, 1 in every 5 children in Ghana has a functioning difficulty in learning. Meanwhile, teachers remain unskilled to identify these challenges.
We realize that there seem to be many more children with disabilities, otherwise referred to as differently able students or learners than we thought.
Hello again, thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Now, 1 out of every 5 children in Ghana has a functional learning difficulty. This learning difficulty is more common in children aged 5 to 17. This according to findings by the Institute for Educational Planning and Administration at the University of Cape Coast. The research notes that the situation is a major contributor to falling educational standards and warrants the immediate implementation of the country's inclusive education policy. Meanwhile, many teachers lack the ability and knowledge to identify such students in order to provide assistance to them. Samuel Mbura has more in this report.
The findings, which seek to identify challenges confronting inclusive education in Ghana, indicate that pupils with disabilities have consistently poorer learning outcomes in reading, writing, and maths than pupils without disabilities. Director General of the Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, Dr. Michael Boachi-Yadom, tells Joy News the challenge needs urgent attention.
Generally, we realize that there seem to be many more children with disabilities, otherwise referred to as differently able students or learners than we thought. That is the first point. The second one is that there also appears to be a lot of misunderstanding inadequate knowledge about the characteristics of these differently abled learners. We might have assumed that many teachers have a very good idea, good knowledge of who they are, how they operate, and how to support them. But what we are realizing is that knowledge on the kids and who they are, their characteristics, is limited.
The highest proportions of children with functional difficulties were found in Volta, Eastern and Upper West regions. Laura Lechi Atachi teaches at Kumbuni RC Basic School in Sogakope of the North Tong district in the Volta region. She tells Joy News that identifying learning disabilities among her pupils has been a major challenge in the classroom.
Sometimes it's very difficult, but as teachers we are trying our very best to identify at least the minor ones that we can identify and manage them appropriately. Sometimes the sitting position in classes also, it's one of the methods we use to help such people, especially those who have problems with maybe their eyes or the ears.
Peterson Kwesi also teaches at Aduto EP Basic School in the South Tong district. He wants the government to train and provide resources for inclusive education.
We are hoping that gradually these trainings will be done to equip us with necessary skills, knowledge, and some level of values that we can use in handling learners with disability.
We can now speak to the Director General of the IEPA of the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Michael Boakye-Yadom. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. First of all, Doc, tell us about the scope of the research and the methodology you adapted.
Very much, Ernest, and good evening to your viewers. So this is the Innovative Pedagogy Project, and it's a partnership between the Education Commission and the Institute for Educational Planning and Administration at the University of Cape Coast. The whole idea is framed within the Sustainable Development Goal 4, where we talk of ensuring inclusive and equitable education for all. There are a lot of issues related to inclusivity, and this project is limiting itself to how to innovatively support children, and especially children learners who are differently abled. What we realize is that, so from the literature, available literature, from observation, and then from the specific methodology that we use, we first did the Policy Dialogue 1, which was 2 months ago. And during the Policy Dialogue 1, we interacted with stakeholders. We wanted to find out from them what they have observed in the school system, especially at the primary school level, regarding the support and the way we teach in supporting children generally, and in particular children who are differently abled. Sometimes we refer to them as disabled children. Now, after the first policy dialogue, we realized that many stakeholders, including teachers and some parents, have limited knowledge on how to support kids who are differently abled. Now, we followed this up with a rapid research where we went to the field and interacted with school leaders, with teachers, with some stakeholders within the education sector in their own space, and also had data that confirmed some of the issues that came up at the first policy dialogue. And that was the fact that many stakeholders, including some school heads, including some teachers, seem to have limited knowledge about the various disabilities that children in their classroom demonstrate and how to support them. Then after the rapid research, we came back for the Policy Dialogue 2, which happened today in Accra. And again, confirming the fact that in terms of knowledge about the various disabilities, in terms of location where they are, in terms of the kind of support that we give them, these data are limited. And therefore, the big question came up as to how we are supporting these kids. And
exactly, and that is why I am coming to. That is why I'm coming to Doc, because I see from the document you shared with the media today, I see that the challenges ranges from logistical challenges to issues about perception and culture, and also a general lack of awareness about these disabilities. What do you recommend should be done to help the children?
So we are recommending innovative pedagogies. We are recommending sensitization among stakeholders. We are recommending government to demonstrate more commitment in terms of providing resources. Taking good care of children with learning disabilities is expensive, and therefore our expectation is that various stakeholders, including government and development partners and all that, would support in terms of logistics, in terms of resources, to provide what these kids need in the school system. When it comes to even assessing which child has what disability, tools and resources to do this are limited within the school system. So these are some of the recommendations that we are making and we are putting out there. And we believe that through our policy dialogue, we'll be able to bring these issues to the table for us to look at them, for us to discuss them, and to find ways of supporting all children, irrespective of their abilities or inabilities.
Very well. Doc, I'm grateful for your time. That's Dr. Michael Boachi-Yadom, the Director General of the Institute of Education Planning and Administration at the UCC. And so he mentioned government. We've been looking at what government has done as far as this area of special education is concerned. My colleague Kofi J is with the research desk and joins me via Zoom with findings on interventions by the Ministry of Education and dealing with inclusive education. Kofi, so what does the data say about what government has done in this area?
Right, and so we picked this data from the Education Ministry's program-based budget, and according to them, Ghana currently has an inclusive, special education program, which seeks to ensure that provision of education for children with special physical and mental needs by integrating them into the formal system or the special schools. Now, according to the same data which was released by the the Education Ministry, there are 31 special public schools, out of which 4 are second cycle schools. And in 2021, it also says that a total of 1,281 teachers were trained on how to manage and support learners with specific learning difficulties.
Okay, and so does it say in terms of the resources, for instance, to be provided to these, institutions, and of course the training for the teachers as well?
Well, so everything is under the umbrella of the inclusive and special education program. And looking at the data, you could see that 2008 being the indicative year, you could actually see an improvement in the enrollment at the basic school level, which has increased from somewhere 5,000 to 7,800. So it means that this program that was outlined by the ministry is actually yielding results according to their data that they put out.
Okay, Kofi, thank you very much. But let's find out how some private schools are able to run inclusive learning to help meet the needs of learners. Priscilla Afote is a speech therapist and she works in such a school here in Accra. She joins us on the phone. Priscilla, thank you very much for joining us on Joy News Prime. Well, she actually joins us on Zoom. You work in a private school that runs inclusive education policy. How are you able to run this model, as you do at the school you work?
So we use the transdisciplinary team, which is made up of the applied behavior analyst, the speech therapist, the occupational therapist, and then the physiotherapist. What we do is, as we are taking care of their educational need, we would like to take care of their health need as well. And this team involves their parents and then some medical authorities. We put in place the individual educational plans where we set short-term targets And these targets are supposed to build up for them to climb the educational ladder. So the individual educational plan are tailored to suit each child. That is, if I have an educational plan, it wouldn't fit in yours because you are a different child with different needs. We may have the same condition, but then your needs, your educational needs will still be different from mine.
Okay, so I see that you try to address the specific needs of the children, but help us understand, do you put all of them together in a classroom? Because I guess the whole idea of inclusive education is to make sure that people are not segregated, but then you go out of your way to meet their needs so they could catch up with those who have less challenges.
Yes, we do put all of them in one classroom. Our classroom size is very small, so you can have about 8 to 10 people in a class.
We seem to have lost Priscilla there on the line, but I guess you got the sense of what she's saying. This is a private school here in Accra that is running inclusive education module where they're going out of their way to meet the specific needs of children, and that may be a response to the research as part of the recommendations Dr. Boachi Yadom and his group put out. Let's do some other stories now. Even though many desire to produce thoughts into readable scripts, they lack the required techniques to do so. Creative writing and the compilation of engaging features has therefore become a challenge for many individuals, including journalists and PR professionals. To address the situation, an editor at ManjaOnline.com, Eric Mensah Ayete, has published 2 insightful books. The books, which were launched at the Jolu campus of the Ghana Institute of Journalism just last week, have so far been recommended as 2 resourceful materials to guide prospective writers and sharpen the skills of practitioners. John Isis Parkwesi Shandov has more on the 2 publications.
The ability to write excellently and speak eloquently are skills many desire. While many are able to easily develop their verbal communication skills, it appears writing poses a lot more challenge. Quite notoriously, the Queen's language is more dynamic and can be sophisticated. This is what inspired an editor at MyJoyOnline.com, Eric Mensah Ayete, to publish 2 books, namely Eric's Diary, a guide to writing feature articles using the 5 W's and H+, M, O/R, and Eric's Diary, creatively writing with the 5 W's and H.
Okay, so I have been practicing journalism, public relations for the past 25 years, and I have come to realize that people have difficulty in writing. Meanwhile, I get praise. Anything I write, people read it and they are like, wow, this is nice, this is good, and all of that. So I took it upon myself to help out, as in put something together that will enable people go through a certain process of guidance and come up with articles, write-ups like I do. So what I did was to go back to the 5 W's and H that are taught in journalism school, use that as the guide from start to finish. So in the 2 books that we have, one for creative writing, the other for feature writing. The 5 W's and H are there. You talk about why you want to write whatever you have set out to write. What is it about? When did the events happen? Where did it happen? And all of that. So you put everything together based on this guide and you'll be able to write.
Beyond the publications, Eric desires to add to the enhancement of knowledge in the field of journalism.
In terms of imparting knowledge, unfortunately, even though I have 25 years experience working as a journalist and a public relations practitioner, the regulators of our education sector would not allow me to lecture. What I have been told is that I either do an MPhil or a PhD. For now, I have set myself within the next 2 years to get an MPhil to enable me join formally the education sector in terms of training journalists and PROs.
A week after the books were launched at the Jowlu campus of the Ghana Institute of Journalism, the author says the publications are now available for public patronage.
For now, copies are available at Airport Shell, front desk of Joy FM. I'm giving myself up to next week Friday. It should be available at Kingdom Books, Vidia Bookstore, and Book Nook.
For Joy News, Pakwisi Shandoff.
Let's find out what's happening in the world of showbiz. Becky is here. Hello, Bex.
Hello to you, Ernest. How you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm fantastic. This evening, let's talk about Ochiame Kwame, because he said that he's realized or noticed that the young crop of rappers here in Ghana are better than, you know, the old ones, including himself.
Okay, so like the younger generation has done better?
Better, and he thinks
lyrically and all of that?
And all of that. Well, he has an explanation.
These guys are standing on the shoulders of giants, you know, like Reggie Rockstone, like Lord Kenya. They are, you see, what people don't know is that these young rappers are way better than us.
In what sense?
In the sense that they are more exciting. When we started rap, there were only 4 rappers. Bookback, Bright, Exdo, Chicago, Reggie Rockstone, VIP, or Bravo. When we started, we were like less than 10. Now everybody knows how to rap. And the world has become so small through the internet. So the competition is not just in Ghana, but also from the US, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa. But still, these young people can be heard. I mean, you don't know. Yeah. Kwame Yogurt and the lot, they are much, much better than us.
Wow. Coming from you, this is very heavy.
It is true, and I'm not saying it just because I want to give him hype. When I listen to him, it's exciting. He grips my mind. And I am a really difficult person to please.
That's very honest.
Yes,
Ejura has grown.
He's always an honest person.
Brutally frank.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about Camido. You know, he performed at the Afro Nation in Portugal. So on Zoom this morning with my colleague KMJ, he's been talking about, you know, the whole experience, speaking about how the whole performance for him is a whole new experience that he wouldn't, you know, take for granted.
First of all, I think it's more than like just performance. It was the whole experience of like meeting people, networking, like people that you've always heard about on maybe on a BBC or, you know, international radio or TV or media or anything, and getting the opportunity to be in the same space with these people, connecting and top of it all, performing. I feel like it was over like 30 to 40 to even 50,000 people. Like, wow. It was lots of came out there, you know, and being on that stage, first of all, like that was my first time having that type of stage settings, and even how the running order, like things went. It was my first time, but that was like one hell of like an experience, and I'm just happy to have gone through that. At least now I know how these things operate. So like, you know, I'm just prepping myself for like, you know, bigger.
Congratulations to Camido.
Congratulations
on
to
that
him.
new experience.
Yeah. But have you listened to Wendy Shea's new song, Survival?
Unfortunately, I actually don't know she has a new song now.
Well, she says, Wendy Shea, who happens to create a platform like that here in Ghana.
You can, and I trust you.
Joy News is here for you.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Becky, for bringing us Showbiz. And that's our show for tonight. Many thanks for your company. Please log on to myjournline.com. We have many, many stories there. Up next is Prime Business with Charles Aite. Stay with us.